So we have here Gemara Art Scroll. We are 29b1. 29b1. Morning of label, Shalom Aleichem. So Gemara wants to know, after having discussed a little bit of the calendar, we'll get more into it. Soon we're going to get to the two different options that used to be available. How you could have the weekly Seder, the weekly Torah portion. One was finishing entire Torah once every year, as we do nowadays. We go from Simchas Torah to Simchas Torah. Or you could finish the entire Torah once every 3 years. They would have a shorter Parsha. They would still have 7 Aliyahs, but have a shorter Parsha. And they would finish the entire Torah once every 3 years. We're going to discuss that idea. We're going to discuss the order of laning. Good morning, Rebbe. Here's it. It's okay. And right now we mentioned that there are 4 Parshas. If you remember the 4 Parshas, we're Parshas Shekalim. Shekalim is giving a shekel coin, half shekel coin to the Beis HaMikdash. There's Parshas Zachar. Zachar is remember what Amalek did to us. And we read it always a week before Purim. There's Parshas Para. Para is to remind everyone to become tahar, become pure for an impure, for touching a dead body or being in contact with anything which was in contact with a dead body, a dead person, in order that they should become, it should not be tamei meis, it should be tahar, pure for the Karban Pesach. HaChodesh is, you read always the Shabbos closest to Rosh Chodesh Nisan or Rosh Chodesh Nisan itself. And it's a mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh plus the halachas, the laws of Karban Pesach. The Gemara now, we're going to have a two-way discussion. What exactly is the Torah reading of Parshas Shekalim? My Parshas Shekalim, says the Gemara. This is the 4th wide line in the Chavtes Amud Beis. What is Parshas Shekalim? What is the Torah reading of Shekalim? Where do you read exactly? Rav Amar, Saves b'nei Yisrael, Martem is Karbani Lachmi. Now, Parshas Shekalim, familiar if you're reading it, it's the Parsha of Kisisa. Hashem tells, right, Kisisa Rosh b'nei Yisrael, v'nosinu, if when you count the Jewish people, each person should give koifer nafshay. Zeh yitnu, this is what you should give. Machatzis hashekel, half of a shekel coin. So if it's half a shekel coin, that's in Parshas Kisisa. However, Rab says that you read Parsha of Pinchas, Parsha of Rosh Chodesh. A lot of times, back then, Parshas Shekalim. Where do you read? You read Parshas Kisisa? There it is. Kisisa is Rosh B'nei Yisrael. When you count the B'nei Yisrael, each person must give a redemption for the soul, half of a shekel coin. And we have continuing all about the half a shekel coin, how much you have to give. L'chaper should be a kapara. In the Rav says that you read the same laning that you read on Rosh Chodesh. That Torah reading by the Karban Tamid and the Rosh Chodesh Karban, that is what you read for Parshas Shekalim, according to Shmuel. So my Parshas Shekalim, which Torah reading do you read? Rav Amar, that you read Tzaves ben Yisrael Martalim Karbani Lachmi. You read Parshas Hatamid, Parshas Rosh Chodesh, the Torah reading of Rosh Chodesh. Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel says, Kisisa Rosh Bnei Yisrael Lefkudehem. You read Parshas Kisisa. So what's a halacha? Which Torah reading do we actually read? Kisisa. Kisisa. Correct. Where it speaks about Machzos HaShekel. Now, in the parsha of the Karbanis, of the daily Karbanis, and the Karbanis of Rosh Chodesh, do you haven't mentioned anywhere a shekel, coin, half a coin?
No.
What's even the thought to think that this is the Torah portion that you would read for Parshas Shekalim? It has nothing to do. It doesn't even mention the word shekel, coin, money at all. It only mentions about karbanos. That's the Torah reading of Rosh Chodesh. Says the Gemara. According to the opinion of Shmuel, which Shmuel said they read Parshas Kisisa. The reason why we read Parshas Kisisa is because it speaks all about Shkalim. Right? Zayitnu, this is what you should give. Machza shekel, shekel hakodesh. Machza shekel truma l'Hashem. Right? It speaks about giving money. So that makes sense, according to Shmuel, why you read this as Parshas Shkalim. To remind everyone, give your shekel. However, according to the other opinion, according to the opinion of Rav, which says that you read the Parsha Torah reading of Rosh Chodesh, which says, as karbani lachmi, to bring my karbanis, my bread, my daily bread, Hashem's needs of the day, which is the karbanis of the day. Midi shkalim ksivi hasam doesn't mention anywhere in Parsha Shkalim, Parsha Kisisa, the beginning, about giving a shekel. Doesn't mention a thing about it. So why? Yeah. So why? Yeah. So why, according to Rav, do you read the Torah reading of Rosh Chodesh? The Gemara answers yes, it does mention Rosh Chodesh Nisan over here in the Torah reading of Rosh Chodesh. We had it just before, about 6 lines before in the Gemara. Remember Rebbe Tzvi? You had the same word 3 times in a row in the Torah. Zois, Oilas, Chodesh, Bechadshoi, Lechadshoi Hashana. This is the Oila of the Chodesh of the month. Bechadshoi in its new month, Lechadshoi Hashana for the months of the year. So we said that we learned from the fact that it says a word over and over that first Chodesh needs to be on the new month. Chadshei Hashana has to be a new donation. The Chadshei Hashana from the first of the months of the year. The first month of the year is Nisan.
Oh, yeah.
So from the first month of the year, not the first month of the calendar year, the first month of the months of the year.
Yeah.
We have 2 different calendars. So the first month of the months of the year is Nisan, and since it says the word Chodesh, the month for the months of the year. So from Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the first month of the new year, you have to bring already the karbanos all have to come in the Beis Hamikdash from the new shkalim that were separated from Rosh Chodesh Adar and onwards from a month before. And therefore, you read this parsha to remind you now is the time to give machzas shekel. So Gemara answers, Hasam. The reason is like Rebbe Tzvi, which says that you read the parsha of the daily karban and the Rosh Chodesh karban to teach you that from Rosh Chodesh Nisan, you already have to start bringing a new the karban from the new funds, and therefore reminds you to give the machzas shekel. Ask the Gemara. Bish Lamanda Amar Savas B'nai Yisrael. Granted, according to now we explain the opinion of Rav. Why he holds Parsha Shekalim is a parsha of Rosh Chodesh. We read on Rosh Chodesh. Shmuel, which says that Parsha Shekalim is what you read in Parshas Kisisa. Gemara says Bish Lamanda Amar Savas B'nai Yisrael Mishum Nechsiv Karbanas Asam. I could understand why we read the Torah portion according to Rav for Parshas Shekalim. You read the Torah portion of the daily Karban Tamid and the Karban of Rosh Chodesh because it speaks about karbanos. Rebbe Tzvi, and as Rebbe Tzvi said, that comes to remind you that give your money in order to bring the karbanos from Rosh Chodesh Nisan from the new funds. Ela Lamanda Amar Kisisa, according to the opinion of Shmuel, which says that we read for Parshas Shekalim, Parshas Kisisa, which speaks all about giving a machzas shekel. Karbanos miksivi doesn't mention the word karbanis at all. Doesn't. So I'm bringing it up on the screen over here. It doesn't mention the chaper al nafshosechem, to atone for your souls. Right? Turim al Hashem should be donation to Hashem, but it doesn't mention anywhere that it should be a carbon, a sacrifice. How is it going to remind you about a sacrifice? And if you're going to try telling me, at least we're mentioning the machas shekel, half a coin. Forget about this. It should mention half a coin. Elamanda Amar. Kisisa karbonis miksivi. In Parshas Kisisa, when it says everyone should give a machas shekel, it's talking about everyone giving a silver half coin in order they could take the silver and they can melt it down for the Adanim, for the sockets in the Beis HaMikdash. Bring it up. So the
coin was minted as a half coin, or you have to cut it in half?
No. It was a full coin, meant just that it had a certain weight, certain amount of silver in that coin. And this is half of that amount. It's sort of like a $50 coin, a 50-cent coin. Doesn't mean a half a coin, it just means half the value.
It's already minted as a half.
It's minted as a 50-cent piece, let's say. I mean, nowadays, we don't really have much. They used to have the gold standard where the silver standard, they would have real silver, real gold in certain coins. Now there's just collector's items. So over here, you see the beams of the Mishkan. And on the bottom of the beams were solid cedar wood. They're very heavy. And they're covered with gold. And on the bottom of the beams, you had Adanim, you had sockets. Silver sockets that were the foundation, sort of the support of the beams, which were the entire Mishkan. And where did all those silver sockets come from? Every single Jew gave a machas shekel, half of a silver coin. And all those half silver coins, all that silver was melted down and was made into the beam support for the Mishkan. Every single Jew was part of the foundation of the Mishkan, without which the Mishkan would not be able to stand. Therefore, Rav says, I don't want to read the Torah portion for Parshas Shekalim from Parshas Kisisa, because Parshas Kisisa talks about the Adanim, talks about giving half a shekel for the sockets, Adanim of the Mishkan, the sockets of the Mishkan. But it does not talk about giving half shekel to the Beis HaMikdash for all the communal karbanos that you need for the entire year. And therefore, Rav says you don't read Parshas Kisisa, which speaks about machas shekel, in order to remind people to give a half a shekel for the karbanos. Rather, you read Parshas Pinchas, the Torah reading of Rosh Chodesh, which does mention karbanos, and it mentions, like Rebbe Tzvi says, that you need to bring the karbanos from Rosh Chodesh Nisan onwards from the new donations which came in from the new year. So ask the Gemara, how does Shmuel explain his position after Rav's question? Rav's question was, how do you know you have to give a half a shekel for the Beis HaMikdash? If you read in Parshas Shekalim, Parshas Kisisa, you're trying to remind the entire nation, time to give your machas shekel. And you're reading to them a parsha which talks about giving money for the sockets of the Mishkan, which was a one-time donation, only happened once in history. So why does he say that you read the parsha of Kisisa for Parshas Shekalim? Answers the Gemara, Kidetani Rav Yosef. I'm going to give the answer in accordance with the opinion of Rav Yosef, who says, Shalosh Trumos Hein. There are 3 different donations which had to be given back then. 3 half shekel coins that the Jews in the desert gave, which were if you look at the Torah portion in Parshas Kisisa, it says the word teruma 3 times. Teruma means donation, right? Teruma LaHashem, a donation, an offering to Hashem. Later on, it says, Yitin Trumas Hashem, they should give the Truma of Hashem. And then later on, it says, the poor, the rich should not give more, the poor should not give less than a half of a shekel. To give as Trumas Hashem, to give the donation for God. So it uses the word Truma Hashem how many times? 3 times. And therefore, the Jews in the desert gave 3 different half shekel coins. That's why today, just bring up the picture that we brought up last week. That's a half shekel coin. So nowadays, when we give a machzah shekel, based on this, because it says the word truma 3 times, we give 3 machzah shekels, 3 coins, because it says truma l'Hashem 3 times, and you give for every single person in your family 3 coins. But we have it easier since we're not actually giving it to the Beis HaMikdash. We don't have to give half of a silver coin. We only give half of a coin, which would be the denomination of the currency of your place. So in America, we give half dollars. In Eretz Yisrael, you give half shekels. Right, so here we're giving 50 cents times 3. We give $1.50 per individual in the family. That's in Eretz Yisrael, you'll give half a shekel, which is about 12.5 cents, 13 cents times 3.
In England, you would give
half a pound, which is probably about $1, right? I'm not sure the currency rate, exchange rate. So you give half of the currency what you have at that point. In Zimbabwe, it's like 100 million Zimbabwe dollars for a US dollar. So you give whatever it is. But since it says the word Truma Hashem, a donation to Hashem 3 times, there are 3 different donations that the Jews then have to give to the Beis HaMikdash, which Achasham is back. One is for the altar, for the communal offerings, and that was the only one which continued onwards, meaning the next year and the next year, and for perpetuity, as long as the Beis HaMikdash was around. And now we do it Zecher LaMikdash to commemorate the Beis HaMikdash, to give a half shekel coin, half of a silver shekel, which I think it's about $40. I'm not sure exactly, something like that, to the Beis HaMikdash per person. One is Shaladanim Ladanim. Then they had another half shekel coin, which were used for the sockets, the silver sockets of the Beis HaMikdash, which were melted down. And then Shalbedek Abayis, Labedek Abayis. Then it says the 3rd time, Truma Hashem, give a donation to Hashem. But this one wasn't a half shekel coin. This is when they were building the Mishkan. They needed all the materials, and they asked every single Jew, give what you could. And everybody gave as much as they could, until they said, well, no yeshiva since has ever said. What has no yeshiva since ever said?
no more money.
No more money, no more donations. Right, but they said that we have too much. We don't need any more. And Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu to tell everyone to stop bringing. Whoever brought, you managed to be part of it. Whoever didn't bring, you lost out. Too late. And that had no limit. You could give ever much money you wanted, the minimum to maximum. So since you have the 3 trumas, 3 times it says donation, donation, donation. So although the Parsha is mainly speaking about the donation for the Adanim, for the sockets, but since it also brings, at least in a through one word, the word Truma Hashem, the 2nd time it says a donation to Hashem, it brings the obligation to give a half shekel coin every year for the Mizbeach, for the Karbanis in the Beis HaMikdash. Therefore, Shmuel says you read Parshas Kisisa on Parshas Shekalim, on the Parsha which comes before or on the day of Rosh Chodesh Adar, to remind everyone to bring Shekalim to the Beis HaMikdash. Gemara continues to ask, on both of these opinions, opinion of Rav and the opinion of Shmuel, we're going to bring in another angle to look at these questions. We don't really have this nowadays in our calendar because our calendar is fixed. But it could happen back then that the Shabbos of Rosh Chodesh Adar, Shabbos for Rosh Chodesh Adar, would be Parshas Kisisa. It's that time of year. The Shabbos before Purim could be anywhere from Yakel, could be Kisisa, could be different Parshas. So it's very possible back then that Parshas Kisisa is the Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh Adar. So the Gemara is going to quote a brisa, and from that, going to ask on both these opinions. According to the opinion of Shmuel, which says that we read Parshas Kisisa for Parshas Shekalim, the Parsha of Machas Shekel, the Torah reading on Shabbos or Chodesh, the Torah reading on Shabbos or Chodesh Adar is different from other Shabbos or Chodesh. Let's say you have Shabbos or Chodesh Adar, so you read Parshas Shekalim on that day. So according to the opinion of Rav, that the Parsha of Shekalim is a Parsha we read on Rosh Chodesh, you're essentially going to read the same Parsha twice on the same day. Let's say Shabbos, Shekalim, Rosh Chodesh. So you're reading the Parsha of the week, 6 Aliyahs, you read to the end, and Shishi. Comes to the 7th Aliyah, you read Maftir. What are you going to read? Rosh Chodesh, or are you going to read Parsha Shekalim? So you read Maftir, which is the Parsha of Rosh Chodesh, and you read again Rosh Chodesh Maftir, which is again the Parsha of Rosh Chodesh. So you're going to be repeating the same Torah reading twice in a row. So therefore, it makes sense, according to the opinion of Shmuel, which says that the Parsha Shekalim is Kisisa, you're not going to repeat it twice. So this is how you could differentiate Rosh Chodesh or Parshas Shekalim. So Shabbos, Parshas Shekalim, Rosh Chodesh. You could differentiate that from another Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, where you read the Parsha of the week and the Parsha of Rosh Chodesh. Here you could differentiate because you're reading Parshas Shekalim and Rosh Chodesh. Right? That's when you take out 3 Sefer Torah. And we're going to see soon in Gemara about this whole idea, reading 3 Parshas, 2 Parshas, but because of Tircha de Tzibura, you learned earlier, right? Why in a weekday we have 3 Aliyahs and Rosh Chodesh 4 Aliyahs and not more, is because on a weekday, people's time are very precious. They have to get to work, they have to get to learn, and therefore you can't make extra Aliyahs for no reason. Called Tircha de Tzibura. Only in Shabbos Yom Tov you can add on more Aliyahs. So regular Shabbos or Chodesh, how could it be different than Shabbos Parshas Shekalim? It's different by reading Parshas Kisisa. Elaman the Amar Savas Karbani, according to the opinion of Rav, which says Parshas Shekalim is the Parsha of Rosh Chodesh, the Parsha of Tamid, Parshas Pinchas, and the Parsha of Rosh Chodesh, Mai Shani. So if it comes up to be Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh Shekalim, other, how is it going to be differentiated that you're adding on an extra Parsha for Shekalim? You can't tell. You're just repeating the same Parsha again and again. Both of them you read Parshas Tamid. So Gemara answers, no, there's even a difference, even according to the opinion of Rav, which says that you read the Parsha of Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, other, Parsha Shekalim. The Ilu Rosh Chodashim, Karu Shita ben Yanadiyan. On Rosh Chodesh, Echad Rosh Chodesh, Ilu Inna Kulu b'd Rosh Chodesh. He says on another Rosh Chodesh, you read the regular Parsha of the week, but you have 3 Sefer Torah. In the first Sefer Torah, you read the Parsha of the week, but we only have 7 Aliyahs plus Maftir. So we do 6 Aliyahs of the Parsha of the week. Shishi reads till the end, and the 7th one reads the Parsha of Rosh Chodesh. If you remember, we brought this earlier about the opinion of who gets maftir. Do you add an extra aliyah, back and forth in the Gemara? Do you add an extra aliyah to get maftir? An 8th aliyah, like we do, we make a kaddish in between, and Misha Beirachs you make in between, and then you get maftir, or is maftir the 7th aliyah? Sort of like a fast day, sort of like Yom Kippur, Mincha, where maftir is the last aliyah, right? So you don't make a maftir for it. Haftarah is the maftir. Shlishi is a maftir, right? That's why only a Yisrael could get haftarah.
Oh, I never thought of that before.
That's right.
When?
When? On a fast day? On a fast day or Tisha B'Av. So if the maftir is the last aliyah, so shishi, 6 aliyahs read till the end of the parsha. The 7th one is Rosh Chodesh, because the 7th one receive the maftir, and he'll receive the Torah of Rosh Chodesh. So that will be if a regular Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. Vilha idna kulu b'Rosh Chodesh. However, now if it's Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, other Shekalim, how many things was that?
Shabbos. We got 3.
Parshas Shekalim, right? But according to Rav, reading again the Parsha of Rosh Chodesh, he says, Kulu b'Rosh Chodesh, all 7 aliyahs are going to be in Parshas Pinchas, Parsha of Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. You're going to suspend the regular Shabbos reading and read only the Shabbos, only the Rosh Chodesh Kriya. You're going to ask me, how are you going to fit 7 aliyahs into such a small Torah reading in Parshas Pinchas? Remember before the Gemara was trying to pull hoops, right? How to fit 4 aliyahs into the reading of Rosh Chodesh. How are you going to fit 7 aliyahs into the reading of Rosh Chodesh? Oh, the Gemara will tell you how. Anicha Lamandi Amar. The Gemara is sort of going to backtrack and say that we're only going to do a few aliyahs of Rosh Chodesh, not all the aliyahs. But I think we'll pause the Gemara here and let's continue this train of thought tomorrow. Let's try getting a little bit more advanced into the Maamar of Veyadaata Moskva.
To do it, you need special permission.
You used to need to have a special permission to live in Moscow.
Yeah, it used to be actually. They were afraid actually that there were going to be too many Jews if the Christians would start converting to Judaism. They were scared because it already happened. But and these Jewish influence became less Christian.
So it's like the famous joke, right? Jew going to there's a Jew, an older gentleman going on a train, and he's going from Hungary to Moscow on a train. And as he's on the train, and he's a big Talmid Chacham, he's a Gemara cup, and he tells him, and he sees another Jew walking onto the train. And he says, he's going to Moscow. Which Jew could be going to Moscow at this time? Generally, Jews don't have a permit to go to Moscow. I know that next to Moscow is a small town. It's called, I don't know, Sabrina. And in this town, there's only, Jews are allowed to live there. But there's only 2 Jewish families in that town. There's the Schwartz family, and then there's the Goldberg family. Schwartz family are not nice people. No one's going to go visit them. You have the Goldberg family. But why should someone go visit the Goldberg family? Well, what do they have with them? I remember they have 2 son-in-laws. One is a son-in-law, one is a lawyer, and he lives in America. The second son-in-law is a doctor. His name was Dr. Cohen. And so that must be the son-in-law. But if it's Dr. Cohen coming from Hungary with all that anti-Semitism, he must have changed his name. Must have changed it to Kovacs. The person sitting next to him says, "Excuse me, can you please open the window?" And he says, "Sure, Dr. Kovacs." He says, "How do you know my name?" He says, "It was obvious." Right? Correct. Let's have a new share over here. Not a new share, but a new share on the screen. The Gemara of Veyadaata Moskva. Okay, hopefully that works. If you have the book, we're on page 99. So nobody has to answer the question. 99. Nobody has to answer the question because it's personal. It's a personal question. But if you do want to answer it, you're welcome to answer it. Could you think of something that you can never tell your spouse? Never tell your wife? Or could you think of an experience that you can never share with your children?
I guess you could always do that. Yeah.
Think of something you can never share with them, or you can never tell your wife. Can you think of something?
Yes, ultimately. Especially with your wife.
Especially with your wife. Don't ever tell her you left a baby in the car, even for a minute. When you're something that you can never say it over, that's just an example of Erdis Merubim, too much light in Kelim Mu'atim. Too few vessels. Receptacle cannot handle it. You can't tell your children because they can't handle it. Or maybe the experience is too traumatic and you can't repeat it. These are called Erdis Merubim. You ever heard of this thing called ADD or ADHD?
Oh, yeah.
Nobody, right?
Yeah.
ADD, ADHD, what does that mean? Person has to be constantly stimulated, right? They're hyperstimulated all the time. And the brain has more than it could process. And therefore, the person's always anxious, they're always stressed out, because there's too much iris, too much light in the kalim, in their mind, in the brain, and it causes the whole system to break down. So you can't have too much going into too little. Right? That's why you need it when you're bringing a European appliance, American appliance to Europe, to South Africa. You have to have a transformer or an appliance which is able to handle the energy, right? The voltage, and it's 220, and here's 110. That you get it over there, and that's the purpose why Hashem created the olam, the world, because olam is a transformer. It hides. The word olam means to hide. And Hashem hides his great light that the world could handle it. And everything, there's olam, many worlds. The only physical world that exists is our world. This physical world. And every physical thing, even the angels will say, which have any type of physical body and manifestation, and those angels would also be in Kollel called the Olam Hazeh Gashmi, the physical world. Mazalis, we learned in Kuntur Sumayan, constellations are the sort of transition point between Ruchnius, spiritual, and physical.
Hashem placed them. I'm in charge of actually, the Goyim. But I was actually thinking that like actually the Goyim actually may have been aware of it, but then they mistakenly thought that the results were actually gods.
Correct.
Yeah.
So when it says that the world will be around for 6,000 years, and 7,000, and the last 1,000 years, Hashem will destroy it. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin. Right, so the time of Mashiach is only until 6,000 years, and 7,000 years is only Mashiach, really. But from the year 4,000 onwards is already the time of Mashiach. When we're saying the world will be destroyed, it's not. You don't have to worry that this world will be destroyed. Rather, what it means, the concealment, the helem of the world will be destroyed. The only thing that will be destroyed is, like an Avram Avinu was thrown into the fire. The ropes were burnt. The concealment of Hashem will be taken away. The curtains will be drawn. The world will still exist, except that the physical concealment of Hashem, which is the Shem Elikim, which is covering over Shem Havaya, that will be revealed. Let's take away some of the layers of concealment right now. Now, of course, the spiritual worlds do have some revelation of Hashem. The world of Atzilus, the world of Bria, physical, they're spiritual worlds. However, they all conceal the light of Hashem. Because what they do reveal, even the world of Atzilus, all that comes through is an external ray and not the intensity of the light. So inside, Hinshneim emes. Both are true, however. Shemegalim esa'ar v'gamalim mastirim ela'ar. The kalim, the vessels of the world of Bria Yisir Asiyah, they conceal Hashem's light, but they also let some light through. They let the beauty and the splendor of the of Hashem shine. The ma'ashem egalim esa'ar hanu Hershel fi erech ha'ilmus. They reveal light of Hashem, the spiritual light of Hashem. And just think of something spiritual, feeling, which is not physical. Think of music, which picks you up spiritually. So think of something. So the kalim, the receptacles which cover Hashem's light, the vessels, they also reveal the light that's necessary that the world can handle. The highest world, which is called Atzilus. Over there, you have godly light, light of Atzilus. It's called Atzilus from the word Eitzel, that it's close. It's one with Hashem. The world doesn't have a feeling of independence like we have in our worlds, our world. And through the curtain, which curtain refers to, there's a tzimtzum, which is a contraction, making it smaller, and a curtain, which through that is sort of like a lens that stops the light. And now something new is only able to begin after that, something different. Not the original light that was there before. Sort of an aura of that light is there afterwards. It's called a parsa.
So Maxi Lou says like a curtain that causes it. It's the first light that comes out. That's Atzilus, right?
First world of Atzilus, correct. Between the world of Atzilus and Bria, you have what's called a parsa curtain. I mean, there is actually a parsa in Atzilus itself, but generally, in the world of Atzilus itself, you only have the contraction of the light. Let's say in the beginning it's a big ray, and afterwards it's a small circle, and afterwards become a little laser. Afterwards, a little amount. But it's that little amount is still light, like you had in the beginning, right? It's not the light of the sun. It's not the light of a torch or a flashlight or even a candle. It's a little small light, but it's still same type of light as the source of light. But once you have a curtain that blocks all light, you put up your shades, your blinds, and now there's no more light inside. And once after the curtain, right, it's called Bakaha Parsa, a little bit of godly light manages to break through this curtain, the concealment. So what comes afterwards is a different type of revelation. Not just a smaller revelation, a different type of revelation altogether. And then you have a parsa. As we said, a parsa is a curtain which totally conceals the light of Hashem. And it goes from the world of Bria to Yetzirah and so onwards. And the light of Hashem doesn't just become less. The light of Hashem changes. And it becomes a different style, a different type of thing, different type of revelation. This is not a revelation of light as it exists in its own independent right. Hashem's light is similar to its source, which is infinite. Just like Hashem is infinite, any revelation we have of Hashem is a revelation of the same infinite. And a human being, by definition, can never grasp infinite, as much as we try, right? 0.9999, go on forever, we still can't grasp infinite. It's still going on. And that's just ein lo sof, ein sof, no end. What about ein lo tchila, has no beginning either? That for sure we can't grasp. The worlds are different than the worlds, the light is different than the worlds which come from it. if I say we're going to this planet, I know a planet is there, it's not here. So there must be some type of limitation, a beginning, a middle, or an end. Also, the word of Atzilus is the Yeshua Gvul. As it says in and all the other lower worlds, Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya, all have limitation, especially until it comes to our world. And they are completely different natures. The Hechalos means the palaces of the world of Atzilus. Now, a palace doesn't mean it's actually a palace. It just means chambers, sort of like a person's house, which, a person, you walk into their house, even though the house is not them, it's not part of them, but from their house, you could tell a lot about the person. If the house is broken down, you could tell the person probably either doesn't care much about their house or can afford to keep up their house. The house is painted pink and purple. You probably know that the woman in charge is a woman living in that house, right? You could tell a lot from a house without even seeing the person who's in the house, just from seeing the place, seeing the house, right? If you never seen a picture of Mr. Frick and you walk into his mansion over here and take a tour, you see his car collection, you see his house, you could assume that he probably had a lot of money and he probably was very aggressive with how he decided things should get done. That's called hechalos, chambers of light. Although it's not obviously Hashem himself, it's a level in the world of Atzilus, or level in a different world, but from those levels, you could tell about Hashem. Just from the nature of it, you could tell that there's God. It's godly light in this place. So it means there's a God, there's an Eibishter behind this. In order to have a concealment that you can't tell at all the source, where it comes from, that's what you need, Parshas, and goes further and further. The concealments of Hashem. As in in letter number 20 of Igeres HaKodesh, of Tanya, we're going to be starting Igeres HaKodesh pretty soon, Hashem. We're in Igeres HaTshuva now. So letter number 20, it's a letter that the Alter Rebbe wrote in the days before he passed away in Kfar Piana. The Alter Rebbe, they say, writes in terms of the highest levels of godliness of any of the other Maamarim, where he says that the purpose of creation is that you have a dir b'tachtonim, right? And this is probably in the Rebbe's Maamarim, I think definitely, and I think in most of Chassidus, the most quoted chapter of Tanya is Iyu v'chiyu ichad. But anything which is a world, a creation, a chamber, a place has a beginning, has an end, has a definition. And once you have a definition, a description, you already place it somewhere, that's automatically not bligvul, it's not unlimited because it has some definition. The light of Hashem is not on the level of finite worlds, can move on, and therefore we could appreciate the Shekalim and Galim. What the vessels, the Kalim, the different levels of those different worlds reveal is a manifestation, an external ray of Hashem, but not the essence of the light. The essential light of Hashem is always concealed. They conceal the essence of Hashem. But they're concealing the essence of the light. So now they're able to have an external dimension of the light, which makes it through this huge concealment, this curtain. And that could have an effect in the worlds. Otherwise, flies right over. It's a sound wave, which is way above human decibel level of hearing, and there's tremendous noises going on all around us, sonic booms and who knows what, but we can't hear it. In order for it to hear it, it has to be changed, it has to be concealed, and that's what the Parsha does. So the vessels do both. They reveal godliness to us, to worlds, but they conceal the essence of Hashem and the light of Hashem. They're interrelated because the vessels conceal the essence of Hashem's light. Therefore, you're able to reveal its external dimensions. During the Beis Hamikdash, Hashem was much more revealed. There were miracles happening all the time in time of the first Beis Hamikdash. Even in the second Beis Hamikdash, there were certain miracles that would happen. And once the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the entire light of Hashem is now covered over, and now we're going in the darkness. But as we learned just previously on this very block, the Daf of Gemara, that we're learning, Hashem, wherever we are, I am with him. Anochi, who's Anochi? Not just Hashem, Elikim is with him, Havaya is with him. Anochi, which is Avav Seres Dibris. Anochi Misha, Anochi, the essence of Hashem, Hashem himself. When a little child says Hashem, the one they have in mind. And they are with the Jews in concealment. So specifically, when we're concealed, when we don't see godliness, that's how we're able to manifest we're able to come onto the greatest revelation of Hashem. And with that, I will take a short 23-hour